Hey, it's Jamie Scrimger. When I became a stepmom, I quickly realized that while moms are encouraged to keep it real, there's a big double standard when it comes to stepmoms. So I decided to start the conversation myself. Thriving as a stepmom doesn't just come from conversations about being a stepmom, though. Here we dive into marriage, relationships, personal growth, and more. My mission? Inspire you to live a kick-ass life while bringing you along as I create my own. This is the KICK-ASS Stepmom podcast. Hello. Welcome to the KICK-ASS Stepmom podcast. I have a really good one for you guys today. Jennifer Teplin is on the show. She is the founder and clinical director of a boutique psychotherapy practice in New York with mentions in Cosmopolitan and Oprah magazine, along with her master's degree from Columbia University. Jennifer has not only created a space for therapeutic healing, she really has created a movement that changes the landscape for therapy and counseling. She really isn't about checking the boxes and just being like, okay, yeah, I went to therapy, did the thing. It's really about diving in and supporting her clients through the entire growth process. Now, in this episode, we dive into so many things that I know a lot of women can relate to. So the guilt that moms and stepmoms have for how they thought they would feel about motherhood or stepmotherhood, and then how they actually feel. The jealousy, comparison, perfectionism, need for control, anxiety, and we also dive into the power of gratitude. This is such a good conversation, especially for the perfectionists or those who are struggling with things that they can't control in their lives. Let's dive in. Can't wait for you to hear this one. All right, Jennifer, welcome to the podcast. We were just talking off air. We weren't able to make this happen for a bit. You know, you got puking kids, all the things, but that's parenting, right? The juggle.
And especially when you need things to just go as planned, that is the moment that 4 obstacles, I think, just automatically get thrown in the way.
I know. Yeah, every single time. I think you just need to expect it. You know, it actually goes into a question I want to talk to you about. But first, give us the lowdown. Give us your elevator pitch. Tell everyone about yourself.
So my name is Jennifer Teplin. I am the founder of Manhattan Wellness. We are a boutique therapy practice in Flatiron in New York City. I right now have 18 therapists. We're about to bump up to 22, actually. And we specialize in supporting professional women experiencing a whole range of things, but I would say most commonly those life transition moments. So the single to partnered, partnered to married, married to family planning to new mom, and then sort of what the heck from there. And we work in a very real and authentic way with our clients. We grow with our clients. And our phrasing is here for you always. And we really mean that. We know that therapy, yes, it's 45 minutes of your week, but life happens outside of that space. And we're available to our clients in a very just real and applicable way that I think really makes our practice unique.
Yeah, I love that you say being available for your clients during those transition periods, because I don't know, I can speak about this as being a stepmom. That's a huge transition that a lot of women in my community go through. They were dating someone or they were single, then maybe they didn't have kids, and then they are hooking up with someone with kids and what that transition looks like. Or then there's also you're divorced and you're single parenting and then you're blending a family. Transitions are they're just so hard. And I think we never know what to expect.
I agree with you. I think they're really hard. And I also think they're always happening. So often people think, oh, I'm just in this phase. Unless your life just gets frozen in time, we're always actually in a transition, always evolving forward. So it's really about being able to help someone in whatever transition they're finding difficulty or want the support, and actually giving them the skills so as they go through their life and they hit all of these other milestones, they have the skills and they feel capable and empowered to be successful in those moments.
Mm-hmm. So what are the skills that you need for transitions? What do we need to do? What do we need?
The hardest thing is learning flexibility and letting go of control. It is so difficult. And I would say, especially as a new mom, especially walking into a step parent role, a blended family role, we just want to make sure everything goes perfectly. And unfortunately, parenting you and I were discussing it before, parenting, there's no perfect way to do it. There's no right way to do it. And if you plan, you're just sort of wasting your daylight hours. So I think it's starting to recognize what are the things that aren't working for me? Where are the areas that I'm getting totally stuck and I call it white knuckling or like muscling the situation. And is it working? Most likely not. And that's how you probably end up in front of me, or that's how someone, finds your podcast because they're looking for some resolution or to at least feel less alone in what they're going through. But I think it's recognizing and starting to accept what we can't control and actually bringing yourself back every single time you feel yourself grasping or forcing. The example I give to my clients who are single, it's the guy isn't texting you. So you think, let me post a thirst trap on Instagram stories. He's going to like that story and then he's going to text me. That's a really cute idea in concept, but is that really authentic, or is that just forcing a situation to play out? And I think the same with parenting. When we want to control our kids, we hold on to something tighter, and guess what? They're going to pull further. You're going to let go when they fall. And so I think once we accept, it's a reality of parenting, but I also think it's a reality of life. We can't control our partners. The only person we can control is ourselves, and getting comfortable with that lack of control enables every individual to function and flow better in their life.
I know. And it's so much easier said than done, right? Like let go of things you can't control. But it is really true. And I think when you get to the point when you can truly do that, and that's a lot of the work that I do with stepmoms, it's like, I love that you just said, is what I'm doing working? Because that's one of the big questions I ask stepmoms to ask themselves. Like the way you're showing up for your stepkids, the way you're dealing with the ex, the way that you're maybe trying to have control over everything that happens in your home, is it working? Like, is it making things better, or is it making things worse?
Is it serving you?
Yeah. Is it impacting your ability to show up? And I talk a lot about disengaging and the power of disengaging in the right way. But even just asking yourself that question in all areas of your life, like, is this working? I saw this thing on Instagram the other day, and it was from a business coach that I follow. And it really hit home for me too, because she's like, if you're continuing to do the same thing over and over again, but like you want to take your life to the next level, you're not going to get there, right? Like what got you here is not going to get you there. And I think that's true when it comes to families and parenting and all the things.
Yeah. And I think it's also hard to recognize, okay, if we can recognize what we're doing isn't working, that means we have to come up with an entirely new plan or way of functioning, which is also extremely challenging. So I think the first step is recognizing it's not working. And then the second step is getting curious about what actually could potentially work, and then ask for the support from those around you if you need it to get yourself there.
I have a question for you. Are you on the Element train yet? Element is my go-to electrolyte drink mix. I swear by it, and I have been drinking it daily for, I would say, a couple years now. Staying hydrated is a crucial and huge priority of mine. And proper hydration isn't just about drinking water. It means having adequate water and electrolytes. Element tastes great. It has no BS ingredients, no sugar, no artificial coloring, and you feel good when you drink it. Formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs, from professional athletes to everyday mom, even if you're following like a keto or a low carb or paleo diet. It is so good. And it is also approved by the Metabolic Reset program that I have been doing as well. Element is just, it's good. It's always approved. A growing body of research reveals that optimal health outcomes occur at sodium levels that are actually 2.3 times the government recommendation. That's why Element is saying more salt and not less. Each stick of Element has 100 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. My favorite flavors are raspberry and watermelon. And when you purchase Element using my code, you will get a free sample pack with all the flavors so you can decide which one is your fave. Head to www.drinkelement.com/KICK-ASS Stepmom to get a free sample pack with purchase. That's www.drinkelement.com/KICK-ASS Stepmom to get a free sample pack with purchase. I have Element before workouts, after maybe a little bit too much wine, when I'm traveling, and midday when I'm not really ready for dinner yet, but I need a little something. Head to www.drinkelement.com/KICK-ASS Stepmom, my go-to electrolyte drink. I never understood the difference or the value in investing in good sheets for your bed until I started sleeping in Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets. They are literally unreal. It is such a different experience. And for the last several months, I have had this urge to freshen up our bedroom with new sheets and a more clean vibe and just a fresh vibe. And I've been looking for the perfect quilt to go at the end of our bed. And Cozy Earth pulled through again. I finally found the perfect one. So I got a new crisp white duvet cover, new sheets, and a quilt, and it really is looking good. Guys, you can feel the difference with their best-selling bamboo sheets made from 100% premium viscose from bamboo. They are temperature regulating, which is key, because if you know, you know. They are so freaking soft and have this oversized fit and a gentle drape, which I appreciate because it drives me wild when sheets or duvet covers aren't big enough for the bed. Like you can see the sides peeking out. I seriously hate that. So these sheets go right to the bottom. They're very deep. It just looks so good. And they get softer with every wash. For the quilt, I ended up getting the linen box quilt. I got the natural color. You know I love my neutrals. And it is woven from the finest blend of bamboo viscose and French flax linen. The quilt's texture and breathability, it's so soft and it is perfect for year round, which I love because I like to keep things simple and I don't want to be switching out my sheets or switching out my bedding for winter or spring or summer. I just want to have it work all year round. So guys, it is looking good. It is so beautiful. Cozy Earth has been a long-term sponsor of the podcast, and I have been sleeping in their sheets. I have been wearing their PJs and their loungewear for years. They are so comfortable, and it's no wonder they have been on Oprah's Favorite Things year after year, and I'm pretty sure that I just saw Kim Kardashian wearing their PJs on Instagram. I've had listeners reach out and tell me that they got themselves some Cozy Earth after listening to the podcast, and they too are obsessed. So Cozy Earth generously gives listeners of the KICK-ASS Stepmom podcast 40% off your order. So all you have to do is use the code CozyJamie40 at checkout and get 40%, which is crazy. Such a great discount. So head to www.cozyearth.com, use the code CozyJamie40 for 40% off. Now, one of the questions we kind of had talked about addressing on here is what happens when, motherhood and stepmotherhood, it doesn't feel the way you wanted it to feel, right? Like we all had these visions for what life was going to be like as an adult and how we would show up and all the things. And then when it doesn't feel that way, when you don't feel that way about your stepkids, when you don't feel that way about even just being a mom, like how do you deal with that? Because I think so many women are struggling with that right now. Well, they always were, but people are just talking about it more. But yeah, it's just motherhood, man.
It's a tough gig. It's very entertaining, but it is also, growing up, I had those blow up chairs from like the Limited 2. Do you know what I'm talking about? Maybe not. They're like, picture the 90s and you just blow up this plastic chair and you would sit in it with your friends.
100%.
And then there'd be a hole in it and you would have to patch it with like one of their patches if you saved them.
Yeah.
And I sort of feel like motherhood is just constantly filling the air into that chair, but there's a hole and you have no idea where the hole is. It's so draining. And I think you're right. So many women picture motherhood to be a certain way or fantasize that it's going to be a certain way. And when it's not, it's extremely uncomfortable. And I think so many people feel as though they're ungrateful or they're doing it wrong. And the reality is, if we went off of Instagram and actually just talked to people that we were truly connected with, we would realize there's the good and the bad. And I don't really know anything in life that goes exactly how we expected it to go, whether that's finding your partner, especially as a stepmom. Like, did you think your partner was going to have children? Did you think you were going to have a blended family? Like, who knows? But it worked out and you went with the flow and you rolled with it. And not to bring us back to control, but like, you let go of the control and you followed your heart and here you are in this beautiful life, right? So I think it's really important for people to realize that nothing ever goes as planned, but also to recognize that life and our experience is always going to be on a spectrum or a pendulum. We're not just happy, and that means we're happy for the rest of our life. I always say when we wake up in the morning, we sort of choose our own mood to start the day, and then things happen to kind of knock us into a different position. So I always encourage clients and anyone that I'm speaking with, start your day as successfully as possible, because that's the only part you can control, from like wake up to, 30 minutes later when you're drinking your coffee, that is your sweet spot of actually control. The rest, you're sort of just defending yourself against the elements. And I really think motherhood is that way as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, there's all the highlight reels on Instagram now. And I don't want to get into that whole rabbit hole because I think people are responsible to understand that when they're going through their feed, like people are sharing their highlight reel as they always did on Facebook. Like we're just sharing those moments. Like that's what you would put in a frame on your wall. But you almost have to live for the highlight reel. Like I was doing this before it was even cool to do these things on Instagram, but like the little montages of those key moments. I used to always do that of our weekend, like from our old recorder, right? Like I would always put them together or
recorder really did it. Your digital camera, my recorder.
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah. And you have to live for those moments. Like I would go and we would be on a family vacation and I'd be like, yeah, you have those moments that are like the lulls and everyone just seems kind of bored or like before dinner or like kind of those awkward moments or like when the kids are being shits and things like that. But then you can go back and you can like reflect on those moments that you did document and you're like, oh my God, that was such a great vacation or that was such a great time. And if you look at your life in that way too, like to expect that every moment of every day is going to be great in motherhood, like it's just like unrealistic expectations. And maybe you are one of those moms who like truly love every moment. I do believe they exist. They're not in my world.
They exist, but it's not relatable.
No, it's not.
I think that it's the friend that every time you call, they say everything's perfect. Okay, that's a 3-minute phone call because you're not going to share anything when you're being real. So do those people exist? Absolutely. Do I think that they are just so out of touch with what they're experiencing? Probably. But that's their choice.
True, totally. But you've got to like live for those moments, right? And like that is what the goal is, right? So if at the end of the day you have like 5 good moments, you're like, chalk it up. Like, it's success.
I'll take it. And I also think the shitty moments make the good moments so much better.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
I know that when I first got on the phone with you, I had shared that my daughter was sick last night. She sleeps 7 to 7. She's almost 2. It's the greatest gift ever. Do I appreciate it? Totally. Do I appreciate it so much more this morning since I was up all night last night? Totally. So we sort of need those lower moments, those less perfect moments, those not frame-worthy moments to make us really value what goes in that frame. And I also think it's about having a realistic expectation of how often things should be good. We are not going to be good and perfect 100% of the time. And if that's what we're striving for, always going to feel disappointed. So I always say we want more than 60-40, but like if you're getting close, but you're still above 60 of the good, I would argue you're in a pretty good position. Like more times than not is a really good place to start. And then we strive for more, but we're just never going to get to 100%. And I think that lack of satisfaction that comes with perfectionism leaves people feeling like they aren't giving enough when I think there is not a mother on the planet who does not give enough.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I think the guilt comes from how it feels, right? Especially with stepmoms. There's a lot of stepmoms who just feel so guilty that they don't, love their stepkids like their own, that they don't look forward to their stepkids always coming, or that they're looking forward to their stepkids going back to their moms. And like, come on, we have to be realistic here. First of all, to put on the pressure that you're going to love someone else's children like your own, that is a huge ask. It happens totally. But how many of those stepmoms are like, I love them like they're my own? And like deep down, or maybe if they really dove into that, is it a little bit different? I don't know. I know for a lot of women it is.
I think it sort of has to be, but I think there's a more of a freedom in a biological mother than there is in a stepmother of being able to admit the not good stuff.
100%.
Like for some reason, there is such a pressure on a stepmom to be like, oh my God, no, everything's perfect. We have no problems. Like we're such a perfect blended family. Their birth parents also love me. Like
bullshit.
How realistic is it that all of that shit is falling into place? Like you're just a liar. There has to be bumps in the road. And for someone who is the biological parent, okay, it's not a step parent, but it's your mother-in-law, right? There's always going to be that character that comes in that maybe, ruffles a feather or two. But I think that's existing. But being a stepmom, there's definitely less grace in admitting the shit.
Oh, 100%. Think about this like after school holidays and stuff too, right? Like you have a stepmom at the end of March break who's like, oh my God, I cannot wait for my stepkids to go back to their mom's house or for them to go back to school. They're driving me nuts, totally crucified. But then you have a mom who's like, oh, I'm at my wit's end. Like March break needs to end. These kids need to go back to school. And everyone's like, preach it, sister. Like it's not the same when really there's a lot of like overlap in the roles. And I think like as stepmoms, having these conversations and talking about these unrealistic expectations and these unrealistic standards is healthy because again, there's just like so much pressure on that and that guilt of not feeling the way that you think you're supposed to feel or you thought you would feel. Like, again, coming down to the expectations. Like, for example, I 100% thought I loved my stepkids like they were my own. And if you are listening to this and you're a childless stepmom and this is very triggering to you, I'm not intending it to be triggering and I'm not minimizing your experience, nothing like that. This is just my experience. But when I had our daughter, Reese, I realized the way that I loved Reese is very different than the way that I love my stepkids. Like there's like that, like she came out of my body. Like I had been with her since day one and it's been different since day one and not in a good, and not in a bad way, right? Like not in a, like I am the evil stepmom way, but like I have a different relationship with her and that is okay. Like that's okay.
I love that you're giving permission to it because you're right. That is okay. And I would almost say, I would question if you didn't feel that way because I think it is so natural and it is so guttural. And I also don't think that people need to compare and contrast in this way. Like you have love for your stepchildren, you care about your stepchildren, you're doing your best to meet their needs. Why is that not enough?
Mm-hmm.
I think stepmoms need, well, maybe it's you. I was going to say they needed a new PR team, but it might be Jamie right here.
I think it might be me. I think Jamie needs a PR team too, though.
Don't we all? But I also think as divorce rises, the stepmom is going to increase. So either someone needs to change the PR or the world just needs to wake up and realize, stepmoms are on the rise. So people need to get a little more comfortable with it. And I just wonder if it's that people just can't understand how someone can step into that role and just flow. And I think that's really where the judgments or the criticism or like the tilt of the head comes from. But the way you describe the love for your daughter, like you should feel different. She grew inside of you. She is half you. Like, why wouldn't you? Why is that an unusual statement to be able to say?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the other piece is like the moms pitting, like the stepmom mom comparison, assuming the worst. I literally just did this reel that I'm going to share talking about like how stepmoms and moms need to just stop assuming the worst of each other. And look, there's some hell of a situations where, it is the worst. Like it has always bad intentions. It's always bullshit. Like I'm not minimizing that, but I think these women were just like constantly pit against each other. And it's that comparison piece too, right? Like moms need to stop comparing the way they're mothering with like their neighbor down the street. Stepmoms and moms need to stop comparing. Like we all need to be like, we are all individual people. So the way that I'm going to show up as a mom is so different than the way you're going to show up as a mom because we're different. We're just different people. And that's okay.
Where do you think partners come into play? Like, is there something that partners could be doing differently to better support and reduce that comparison? Or do you feel like most of the time, the partner doesn't really get involved because it gets a little sticky? I always wonder that.
Well, I think that a lot of times these partners will come in and they want to like tell their new partner like how shitty their ex was. Well, it's like she was such a bitch about this, or like, she does this or she does that. Well, I know. I had a conversation with Darren once. I was like, okay, you are remembering things right now about your relationship based on the story that you have right now. It has to be aligned with your storyline. So if you're sitting here to your new wife and are saying how amazing your ex was,
it would be weird.
It'd be weird. It'd be like, what is it? Dissonance?
Cognitive dissonance. Exact. Stop, Jamie, you're a therapist.
Yeah. I have a psych degree. No, but it's uncomfortable. And so they're not going to say that. So I've said to Darren, I said, no, you had great vacations with her. You had great times together. She's way more fun than I am. I know that. right? Like I know there was all these great things, but I don't think that, stepmoms are willing to hear that, right? Like that's a little awkward to hear that about your partner's ex. And the partners aren't willing to like share that too. So they're always sharing the bad things. And then that paints the stepmom's perception of her. And then you always end up like assuming the worst. So it's almost like even still like kind of goes to patriarchy. Like we're like competing for the man or competing to be the better mom or competing to be the better wife. And it's like, come on, she could have been a great wife. And then they split and now he's with you and you guys are going to have a great relationship. But like shitting on her doesn't make you a better stepmom or your marriage even any better either.
And also, if she was so horrible this whole time, what is wrong with you that you chose her and that you stayed with her for this long? Like that to me is more questionable than anything.
Yeah. Well, I will say, I remember, speaking of therapists, I will say, I remember listening to Dr. Phil. I used to watch Dr. Phil every day after school.
Didn't we all though?
Loved it. And